Hello and welcome to Paydirt TV. I'm Dominic Piper. Today I'm joined by Tim Harrison, Managing Director of Ionic Rare Earths Limited. Tim, thanks for joining us.
G'day Dom, thank you for having me.
Tim, it's been a pretty exciting start of the year for the company. You've just received the renewal of your retention license on one of the main licenses at your Makuutu Rare Earths project in Uganda in East Africa there. And you've also increased the exploration target at Makuutu. Does this sort of clear the path now for a solid year or two's work of exploration and development?
Very much so. The last 6 months of work that the company has been working on has all paid off. We've now got the renewal license, the renewal of the Makuutu Central license has now been secured. That gives us another 2 years to complete the bankable feasibility study and ultimately work towards submitting a mining license application. So with the granting of the renewal and the new exploration license, we're seeing a plan now being laid out for us to move ahead but significantly grow the scale of the project.
It does look a project of potentially rather large scale. Is that what attracted Ionic to the project in the first place?
Yeah, look, I think initially, so previous directors of the company had quite a bit of rare earth expertise and certainly were fully aware of the strategic importance of ionic clays. Ionic clays are basically the engine room of the heavy and critical rare earth supply coming out of China. We know that they've been depleted through over-mining and illegal operations. Those resources being depleted means that new ionic clay deposits around the world will only become more important and effectively become the new sources of heavy and critical rare earths going forward. And through the work that the company's done over the last 12 months, we certainly have been able to sort of work upon that potential, starting to deliver on that. And with the new exploration licenses, sufficient scale now for us to consider much larger scope for the project.
So, Tim, how does an ionic clay deposit like Makuutu compare to some of the other deposits we see being developed on the ASX? Is it higher value? Is it lower capex? Higher capex? What are the differences?
So, ultimately, they're very different deposits. An ionic adsorption clay is typically a lower capital project. They produce a much higher value product that ultimately presents the operators with a higher margin overall project. Ionic adsorption clays are very simple to mine and process, so they don't have any of the complexities associated with the downstream processing requirements for a rare earth mineral concentrate. So the whole rare earth space, the competing markets, export bans, it's actually a perfect storm for bringing a project like Makuutu to market because it's uniquely different from everything else on the ASX. It's going to be low capital, it's going to be low operating costs, it's going to be high margin. So it's, and it's making a product that's 70 to 75% critical and heavy rare earths.
Yeah.
Makuutu will be making a mixed rare earth carbonate. That is a chemical precipitate. It's not a mineral concentrate. So given it's a chemical precipitate, it actually has a higher payability.
So, Tim, what's the plan from here then? You've got the license renewal and you've got this greater exploration target. Is there a focus on expanding the resource and putting out a resource update this year?
That's right. So we've just completed about 4,000 metres of drilling and we're still pulling in the remaining assays. So over the course of the next 2 to 3 weeks, we'll get the remaining assays. We then go straight into a resource upgrade. So we're anticipating a material upgrade. So the initial resource that the project has been currently has of 78.6 million tonnes at 840 ppm total rare earths. That was derived from about 900 metres of drilling. So we'll be now bringing in around about another 3,700 metres of drilling. So that gives some sort of scale of the potential upgrade that we may be looking at. And likewise, the initial resource covered an area of about nearly 5 square kilometres. The drill program we recently completed tested at about 16 square kilometres. So, we're looking at a substantial increase in the resource. The timing on that, I'm hopeful that we'll have that delivered in the first quarter of this year. And on the back of that, that will feed into a revision of our scoping study. So we're anticipating a material increase in the scale and scope of Makuutu Rare Earth Project.
And from there, you say an update to the scoping study. Have you set yourself a target and a timeline for producing a feasibility study on the project?
Yeah, so once we've got the scoping study completed, we then going straight into the bankable feasibility study. The intent is to initiate that in the second quarter of this year, aiming to have that wrapped up around the second and third quarter of next year, along with an environmental social impact assessment, which would then support a mining licence application. So we're aiming to have that mining licence application in by the end of the third quarter next year. So, we're moving at pretty quick speed because of the simplicity of the project.
The project development and being able to move rapidly is one thing, of course, but the other challenge is getting through the regulatory system. Uganda's not known as a tier 1 mining jurisdiction. There's not a whole lot of mining activity that goes on there. How have you found operating in the country?
Yeah, look, we've had a lot of good dialogue, good meetings. We've had good relationships that the previous owners of the project have fostered with the Ugandan authorities. We've got two of our shareholders within the Rwenzori Rare Metals, which is the company that Ionic is earning into in Uganda, are Ugandan nationals with experience in government and the mining industry. So we've had a network of good relationships within Uganda. We've also had some good discussion about how we can bring our skills to help build a mining industry in Uganda. And I think that that's been well received.
And infrastructure-wise, is Uganda well serviced for roads and power and so forth?
Yeah, it is. And we're actually, the location of the Makuutu project is actually in a very well-developed band in East Africa, especially in eastern Uganda. So we're about 120 kilometres east of Kampala, the capital, 40 kilometres from Jinja, where there's low-cost hydroelectric power. We have a 132 kV transmission corridor that runs effectively through and to the north of our existing tenements. We've got road, rail, mobile phone communications. So we're actually quite well endowed with existing infrastructure. So it means when we go to develop Makuutu, we're not going to have to fund that initial or that additional infrastructure. That's a huge bonus for developing Makuutu from a low capital intent.
You've also got the advantage of a renewed board with plenty of African experience. You've brought Trevor Benson on as chairman, and Brad Marwood has come in as well. Is that the intent, to bring in people who know about operating in Africa?
Very much so. I think what we've looked for is to build a composition of the board and transition from where we were previously, which was that exploration focus, making sure that we set up the company properly, make sure we have good governance and systems. We've done that. We now move into a phase of basically taking the exploration and we move to that, development phase. So bringing Trevor on to help us on a corporate front, and bringing Brad to bring his expertise in mining and project development in Africa. I think we've got those skill sets complement what I'm bringing to the table. So I think we've got a well-rounded board, and we're pretty nimble.
Well, Tim, best of luck for this year. It sounds like there's going to be plenty of news flow coming out of Makuto and Ionic in the next 6 months or so. We'll keep an eye out for that, and perhaps later in the year you can come back and tell us about that process.
Thanks, Dom. All the best.